Hey everybody, welcome to the Crit House. I am Jeff Larson, and we are continuing with our My Five series here, where photographers and photo professionals come on the program and they talk about 5 images that have somehow affected them. And we have today somebody I have been watching for a long time on YouTube, Samuel Lintaro, Samuel Street Life. We so many different names we can call you. But your YouTube channel, I do have to say, has been great for me in learning photography. So thank you, first of all, for that. And thank you for coming on the Crit House as well.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here and finally, right? Because we have been in contact for a while and super honored and happy to hear that you learned something from me as me being such a young, photographer compared to, I don't know, the other guests. I kind of feel like I'm still, when you ask me for these 5 images, I'm still discovering my top 5, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it
Well,
was a little difficult.
it is hard, right? I mean, it's hard to kind of come
Yeah.
up with, figure out like what 5 images. And I know a lot of the people I've talked to, even the old folks, are like, well, if you ask me tomorrow, I'd have a different 5 images that would
Yeah,
that I
exactly.
talk
Yeah.
about. Yeah. So what did you go through when you were deciding the 5 images? How did you make that decision?
Well, first of all, I was super glad that you didn't just wanted us to select like 5 images we like. Like that could
Mhm.
be easy, right? Picking up
Sure.
5 images we like and then show everyone how good our taste is. But I much prefer showing images that had a personal impact on yourself. Or in my case, I chose images that um, I still think are great images, but they're not necessarily my favorite images. And but they're images that have influenced the way I look at photography or the way I wanna. Some images inspired me to try out a different style of photography, for example. So yeah, images that I learned a lot from and are a big part of my journey.
So, Lintaro, here is the first image that you have selected. This is Mortagna. Is that how it's pronounced?
I guess it's Montagne. I can't speak French, but it's a French name. So my background is I learned or experienced or had first experience with photography through skateboarding. I was a skateboarder myself. Started when I was 13 and did it for 10 or 13 years. Broke my ankle very bad. Never was
Wow.
able to skate the same again afterwards. I still have issues on my right ankle, but it was a very influential time of my childhood. I was taking lots of photos and doing videos with my buddies and making skate videos. My parents were gave me a little compact digicam once. I guess when I was 13 for my 13th birthday, and then I started taking photos of us skating, and then my inspirations for the skateboard um, photography were other skateboard photographers, of course. But this guy here, Fred Montagna, also known as French Fred, when I discovered his work, um, it was a huge contrast to the imagery I was seeing from the skateboard magazines. They were mostly shot with fisheye lenses or with a very long tele lens and blurring out the background, and
Hmm.
so very much focusing on the action and the posture and the moment of the trick. It looked to me like fine art photography, and I was like, is this still skateboarding, skateboard photography? I guess so, but it looked totally different to me. And this is a very simple in terms of composition and subject matter and moment. It's a technically it's a very simple photograph, and the moment is a very beautiful moment here of a 360 flip. No, but this image was just visually, in terms of composition, was just very striking to me, and yeah, very fascinating to me. It was like it really blew my mind that you can take photographs of skateboarders, but do it in this kind of fashion, yeah.
I feel like we've gotten your origin story there. That's cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Your second image from the legendary Daido Moriyama. Tell us about this one.
I knew I had to mention him because he was definitely a big influence, because his imagery was so different from the type of photography I was following at that time, which was heavily influenced by reportage photography. So James Nachtwey, for example, war photographers, another huge inspiration in my career for sure. But then I discovered Daido Moriyama, and I was like, what is this? I can't really categorize this.
Yeah.
I was still not aware of the term street photography, and in Japan, snapshot photography is what Daido is known for. Most of his work consists of snapshots. For us in the West, it always sounds like degrading when someone says,
Yes.
"Oh, you took a good snapshot." Like,
Yeah.
no, it's not a snapshot; it's a photograph. But snapshot photography is highly respected in Japan. If people ask you, what kind of photographer are you? Oh, you do snap. They call it snap. Then like, oh, so he's a photographer that shoots from the soul or from the gut, someone who's spontaneous. And that appreciation I got from seeing Daido Moriyama's work. And I chose this particular image here of this. It is a surreal photograph. It's a floating whale. You don't see whales floating.
They're not supposed to be there, no.
Yeah, exactly. And I was so focused on let's tell stories of like real life stories through photojournalism, reportage photography, and it has to be truthful and as objective as possible. But seeing his work, it was the opposite of that. It was not objective. It was very subjective. Sometimes he just let the camera take the photo and he didn't care. Also see, and this is something with my own work as well. I'm making a little bit of a transition at the moment, or transformation, let's say, from trying to make my street work also a little bit more mysterious and a little bit more personal. Yeah.
So Siegfried Hansen, I'm not familiar with. Tell us about this image and why it's important to you as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So Siegfried, German photographer. So before we talk about this image, which I think is just hilarious and
it is.
Yeah. Let me talk a little bit about Matt Stewart, because before I knew that there was something like street photography, I discovered a new genre of photography and I didn't know what it was. And I just, in my head, I saved it as humor photography. Later, I found out through this book here, Street Photography Now,
Yep.
Matt Stewart cover, that, it's called street photography. And Siegfried Hansen's work would also show up alongside this article. Maybe it was a related article. And it was also very humorous, but not always. Also very abstract, but images from the street. And then I never heard of him before. He's from the same city that I come from Hamburg. Seeing his work made me showed me a side of street photography that I didn't understand until this time, which is that the best stories are you can find in real life. But yeah, an image that was just, when I saw it, I was like laughing and I was like, this can't be real. This must be Photoshop. And then I saw his work and I was like, okay, this guy doesn't use Photoshop. It's just his eye.
So your fourth image is not humorous. It takes you in a different direction. Talk about this one from Lucas Polka.
Yes. This is kind of the counterpoint to the previous image from Siegfried Hansen. And this one tells a story without showing it us at first glance. And when I went on YouTube, for example, looking for street photography, I found him. He had a filmmaker friend who made a short video portrait or documentary about him in Tokyo, where he was talking about his process. And I just found his images to be very beautifully shot and candid. And it was the scene in itself. It is a very quiet scene. There's not much going on. There's not a lot of action in the frame. I think it's the combination of her posture, the way she's standing with the legs crossed, and then she's going through her hair, looking to the side. Then the guy that is probably working at this restaurant is also looking at her, and you want to make your own story. Like, what are they thinking in this moment? Do they know each other? Are they strangers to each other? Probably they are strangers. But it's a very quiet, but still intimate and candid moment. And seeing this showed me that, you don't need to photograph spectacular moments on the street.
And your final image comes from this is like one of the classics of photography, and I'm not sure I know how to I've ever pronounced the name right. I say Doisneau, but I don't know if that is correct or not. Robert
I
Doisneau.
also checked and looked at some documentaries, and they are saying Doisneau. So Doisneau.
Okay, all right, we'll go with that.
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone saw this image at least once in their lifetime. Famous image from Robert Doisneau, French photographer. And we all know by now that it's a staged scene, a stage photograph. Yes. It's not candid. I will talk a little bit about that as well. But so this, all the images that I talked about before, they all influenced my work, and the same goes for French photographers like Robert Doisneau. I also personally like his work a little more than Bresson's work, although I appreciate Bresson's eye for composition, and he is definitely the boss. But what I really like about Doisneau is his humanist approach, or how he photographs people. It's very focused on the human experience. He's known for not showing people in an undignifying way. That he always cares a lot that people look good in his photographs, and he shows like the good sides of life on the street, and particularly here in Paris. And the assignment was to take a kiss photo in Paris. And he was with some models or his friends, but people he knew. And I believe this moment is still candid. So he would follow his actors, models, friends, whatever, on the street throughout different locations. And then he would not talk to them, but just take photos and let them live in the city, basically. So at least this moment is still a genuine, candid moment, but the setup is staged, is set up, it's planned for. For me, it was like, wow, this Paris must be beautiful, and I think at that time also Paris was getting this reputation of being a lover city or a romantic city, and people wanted to see this kind of imagery. But for me, it is symbolizing a romantic view on street photography that I still hold dearly in my heart when I do street photography. This is also what I like to see in my city. These are the kind of scenes I also look for, and it has everything that I appreciate about street photography. It's a fleeting moment. You have movement in the background. You have multiple layers, foreground, background elements, and I can show it to my wife, and she gets it. A lot of street photography, especially modern street photography, is almost they're almost exercises in composition. And
those were 5 great images to talk about, and you can see your process and how you were affected by each one coming on through, and I love the stories you told about them, so thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thanks for coming on the Crit House. So if you are interested in joining us here on the Crit House, then we'd encourage you to post on Instagram your 5 images, use the my5 hashtag, and then tag us at the Crit House as well, and maybe we'll have you on the program as well. Lintaro, Samuel, thanks so much for joining us. It's been great meeting and talking to you, because I've been watching you for such a long time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. I love watching all the videos you do, and please keep doing them.
All right. Thanks, everybody.